So we've had some major problems with the tiny house, so thought I'd bring you in, show you, well, basically a quarter of the house. So yesterday, as I told you, we went grocery shopping. Had a bunch of problems yesterday, actually. It just seemed like everything kind of collided all at once. Told you about the generator and how that wasn't working right in the car or the truck. Had a couple problems, and then we got down the road and had some antifreeze that we had to add to it. So just several different problems. Well, we went grocery shopping. I showed you all the meat that we got. We got those 3 pork butts, like 20 pounds each, for $1.19 a pound. It was an incredible price. We figured we'd be canning it today because our little refrigerator just can't hold that much food. It holds about 30 days, and that was 60 pounds of meat, so that was 60 days. We eat about a pound of meat a day. That was more than what the fridge could handle, so we were going to can it. Well, Carolyn's just grinding away and cutting away like she always does. She'll make sausages and different things, and I noticed the fridge isn't kicking on. Now, I pay close attention to the fridge on days that we get groceries because we run on solar panels. I have to run the generator at nighttime to make sure that we have enough energy to get through the night and run and get everything frozen. So I went down to the inverter, make sure everything was working down there. Of course, we had electric in the house, so I was sure the inverter was working. Last year, we had a problem with the refrigerator, and I unplugged it for, I don't know, a minute, and I heard it click. Plugged it back in, and it worked. So I tried that trick again. Nothing. Turned the thermostat all the way up, nothing. It's an old fridge. It's, well, I say old, it's 5 years old. A little Walmart thing. But you gotta remember the first 3 years of its life, it was in the back of the pickup truck just bouncing around, and these things weren't ever designed for being on the road. Everybody tells you if you're gonna be a nomad, get a DC refrigerator. Well, those things were $1,000 or $2,000. You could have literally bought 10 of these for the price of one of those. So I figured if it lasted a year, we could make it 10 years for the same price. Well, it lasted 5, so we're well above the curve. So Carolyn and I figured it up, and it was $30 a year is what that cost us. We had to run and get a new refrigerator. Just didn't have a choice. Carolyn was in the middle of cutting up all that meat. We had to do something with it. It was a busy day yesterday. We typically don't go anywhere. Here it was noon, and we're running off now. I know this sounds silly, but it is my job. 3 o'clock my time, my video post. So I got to be available for the first hour of my video being released. Make sure it released okay and everything's okay with it. And that's my job. Every day at 3 o'clock, I got to be ready for that video to post. We run to Walmart, and we're thinking about getting another fridge. And Carolyn's like, well, I don't want to get a fridge. I want to get a freezer. Well, I'm not thinking. I'm just thinking we got to get the food frozen. And I said, freezer? Why do we want a freezer? What are we going to do with the refrigerated stuff? She says, well, we have a cooler. Well, are we going to buy ice all the time? No, we'll put water bottles in it, frozen water bottles, because we'll have a freezer. I thought, wow, what a genius idea. I mean, we've talked about getting a freezer a lot since we moved here. But in order to have a freezer and a refrigerator, I would basically need 1,000 watts more solar panels and 7 more batteries to do both. And I just never could figure out if I wanted to do that. We got to Walmart, and a new refrigerator was like $300. This little freezer, though, was $200. And we'll be able to get tons more meat in here. We put all the meat that we got yesterday. There's almost 100 pounds. I think she said 80 or 90 pounds of meat that we got in here. So this means we won't have to can as much. We'll still can chicken because the cat likes chicken. It'll reduce the amount of propane that we have to use to can our food. And the solar panels, this was the discussion. Will the solar panels be able to handle the freezer? Because it is more energy. So I figured it up, went down to the inverter, checked it all out. The refrigerator runs about 100 watts per run hour. So every hour it runs about 100 watts. This fluctuates in between 100 and 120 watts. So it's basically the same. The big difference is we got more meat in it than what we normally get in the fridge. So it's taking forever for this to cool down. We ran it all day yesterday, all night, and all day today. It's 2 o'clock now, and it's still running, hasn't shut off. So I ran it on the generator. I'll probably have to run it on the generator again. It's not even half full. I mean, we got these big 2 hunks of meat down here. We didn't even cut that up. What we'll do is we'll get the Sawzall. We have a clean Sawzall blade that we use just for meat items. And so when it's frozen, we can just cut strips off of it, like steaks. Since we didn't have any time to do it while it was thawed out, we had to get it frozen. We're already freezing bottles of water. We got bacon and just everything, but look at it. It's not even close to being full. Let's say that's 100 pounds of meat. Maybe get 200 pounds of meat in here. We'll never have to go to the grocery store again. So we go about once a month now for 30 days worth of food. That's 30 pounds of meat. So you figure 3 months of food is what this can hold. Our canned food, we already have about 300 days worth, so about a year. So there's a year and a quarter of food that we have in this house. Somebody said the other day, you ought to get a deer, that'll fill your freezer. At the time, I didn't have a freezer, so I said, I don't have a freezer, I'd have to can it. Now a deer seems like a real option. Even a pig, that's one of the reasons we never went and butchered a pig. What I used to do in my past is I would go to the livestock auction. You can pick up a pig, well back then it was $100. Now it's about $250, and you can get about, I think, 140 pounds of meat. Well, we could do that now and freeze it. This would have to be a little bit more empty, I think. 140 pounds, it'd be close with what we have in it. But now we have options. This is just, I don't know why I didn't think of it. She said it and I wasn't even thinking. So yesterday we bought ice because we weren't sure how fast things would get cold. We got the cooler filled up with our refrigerated items. The eggs, everybody's gonna say, hey, you don't have to refrigerate farm fresh eggs. We do because we have a rooster. If we leave it in the house, that house can get up to 90 degrees sometimes, usually about 80, 85 degrees. At that temperature, our fertilized eggs, because we have a rooster, would start incubating. So we keep them refrigerated. So the other day, I told you that we had condensation in the attic, and it really concerned me. I mean, we can't get mold. I already have a mold allergy now. I actually got poisoned by mold years ago, and I'm pretty sensitive to it now since then. I've had asthma. Now, of course, my carnivorous diet has pretty much taken care of my asthma, but I always get allergies in the spring. So this was pretty concerning that we got mold in the attic, that it would make me sick again. So I immediately started ordering stuff. Now I told you about the attic the other day. The reason we didn't put vents in it when we built the house was we were gonna make the attic part of the living space. It was gonna be a storage area. We were calling it a loft. It was gonna be opened. So if we'd have put vents in it, it would have been the same temperature as it is outside. Well, I just never got to finishing it. Carolyn and I talked about it. We decided, you know, we don't really need a loft. It's just gonna be extra money. We'd have to buy more insulation for the paneling. Well, I knew there was a potential for moisture up there. But the first year we were here, we didn't have a moisture problem. The second year we were here, no moisture problem. This year we have a moisture problem. I had a 4-inch hole saw, so I ordered some vents. Now the vents ended up being the wrong size when I got here. I didn't know that until I already had the holes drilled. So went to the hardware store. They didn't have any vents that size. What I did was I took some, well actually Carolyn did it. We took some Coroplast, which is the same stuff that covers the truck camper that we built. You can buy it at Home Depot. You make yard signs out of it. It's called Coroplast. And we made rings. We drilled a center hole in it, and then we made the outer diameter of the Coroplast bigger, slid the vent into the Coroplast, and then pushed the vent into the hole. The Coroplast now acts as a rim. Sealed it up with some gluish type of silicone. It was 100% adhesive silicone. It was pretty expensive, but it was worth it. So now you can actually feel a breeze going through the attic. That took 3 hours because all the problems I was having with the size of the vent is we got to drill holes in this board here. We're going to drill 4 to start with, 4 on each side of the house. I was going to buy vents for this, but we decided against it. We bought some screening material, and we'll just put screen over the holes that I drill. So 4-inch holes, put screen over it and staple the screen. Now what those holes will do is it will draw air in with temperature. As the temperature increases in the attic, I might be backwards, but it draws air in. So as it's drawing air in, then you have this cross flow, because I got 3 holes on each side. These holes equal the same size of a regular square vent, but I didn't have to cut a big old hole in the side of the house. If I ever decide to make this a loft, I'll be able to close up these holes a lot easier then closing up a big old hole with the louvers. So it's already drying out. I mean, just that quick. So now I got some mold spray. In case any mold happen, or if we're gonna get any mold, something I can't see, we got some mold spray. I'm gonna spray every square inch of the attic as soon as those holes in the board here is drilled out. Mold dies at 140 degrees. So this summer, I'm gonna close up the attic on a really hot day, put a thermometer up there and see how hot it gets. If it gets close to 140 degrees, I have an electric heater up there actually. It's sitting up there. I forgot all about it until I went up there the other day. I'll plug the electric heater in to the generator, run the generator until I can get the attic up to 180 degrees or so, and get any mold that might be up there killed. Then next year I shouldn't have any problems because now I have a ventilation flow. So I know people are going to criticize. People do criticize. When I built the house, people were criticizing that I needed to put vents in it. And like I said, we've had lots of different ideas on how we were going to go about doing the attic. We actually thought about just taking the ceiling out of the attic in the house. I don't know, like a third of it, just take out the ceiling. Then you have a loft on one side and a loft on the other side. We'd have to decorate it so it looked pretty because the trusses run across. So those trusses are just 2x4s. We'd have to figure out how to make it look nice. But regardless, this will work for now. Now, one of the things that somebody yelled at me about, and I told them it's not a big deal, is you can't walk on my plastic ceiling here, my roof. Of course, I had to get up there. I've been up here before. All you have to do is take a ladder, lay it down across all these boards, and then you just walk on the ladder. That wasn't a big deal. The other thing is my hole saw. When I showed you the hole saw, it's got like a 1.5 foot drill bit. And somebody says, you're gonna run a hole through your roof, because as I put the drill bit in, this hole saw, it'll just pop right through the drill bit, pop right through the roof. Well, that's adjustable, the hole saw. You can just slide that drill bit down. You can take it out and put another one in. I do appreciate the warning, but yeah, that's adjustable. The reason the drill bit was so long, when I originally bought the saw, it was to cut holes into the side of the house here. Well, my studs are 2x6s, so they're real long. I had to be able to get through both walls in order to run this vent. This vent is for the wood stove. This is the fresh air vent. That way it's not, the wood stove isn't drawing air from inside the house. If you'll click this up next box, take to a video where I showed you all the problems I had with the attic. So I hope I can inspire you to resolve your problems when you're living your dream. Thanks for watching.